The rich history of the PBA Tour in Toledo, Ohio continues today. The Tour visits the city for a 35th time. It's the PBA Toledo Open from Southwick Lanes. First from Mexico City, Mexico. He led qualifying this week in Toledo with one career title, Patrick Healey Jr. He has 3 career PBA titles, won a 15-bowler throw a 300 game on TV. From Bolingbrook, Illinois, near Chicago, Steve Jaros. A PBA rookie who makes his first TV appearance today, 18th in the world rankings from Garland, Texas, near Dallas, Chris Johnson. From Baltimore, Maryland, he has 10 career PBA titles, has earned more than $1 million, Danny Wiseman. He has 18 career titles, the only international player in the PBA Hall of Fame. From Barquisimeto, Venezuela, Amleto, Monacelli. That is the final 5 from Toledo today. Dave Ryan, Randy Peterson, great to have you with us. Randy, let's look at the brackets. Good matchups this afternoon.
Well, the wild card match features our tournament qualifying leader, Patrick Healey Jr., taking on Steve Jaros. And in semifinal number 1, Chris Johnson bowls under the lights for the first time as he takes on Wiley veteran Danny Wiseman. Amleto Monacelli, looking for his first win since 1997, waits for the wild card winner in semi 2.
We are coming here from Southwick Lanes in Toledo, Ohio. Dave Ryan, Randy Peterson, our entire PBA crew. Live coverage here on ESPN continues. The next stop. It is critical for all these bowlers. The final 5 today, trying to earn the all-exempt status for next season. Patrick Healey Jr. in that category. Title game last year. In Kansas City begins his day with a 9-pin, little high.
Wow, that ball just went right by the 9-pin. Watch this ball. It's going to go right by the 9-pin, and the reason why is because there's a lot of friction on the lanes today. That ball was adhering to the lane surface, and it drove right through the pins, right by the 9-pin, no deflection.
5th year for Patrick Healey, Randy, on tour. Takes care of his 9-pin. We saw Mexico City, Mexico, but he was born in Niagara Falls, New York, right on the Canadian-U.S. border in that beautiful part of the country. He and his wife now live in Mexico City. Here's Steve Jaros from Chicagoland. 3 titles for him. He's not won in a long time. Wants all-exempt status. Valuable tour points. $40,000 on the line in prize money here today in Toledo. Won 29 regional titles. Great experience for Jaros. Single pin conversion numbers for Steve. Perfect. Looking to continue that today on TV. 10-pin, down it goes. Jaros and Patrick Healey Jr. Randy in the Baby Ruth. Real deal matchup.
Yeah, and the big thing, Dave, that really shines here is this. Steve Jaros, every time he lets go of it, strikes more than 2/3 of the time. Obviously, his spare conversion percentage is going to be very high, too, when you're striking that much. But, you know, Steve Jaros, 81 frames without an open, and it was a really good sign that he made that 10-pin.
That's the start you want, right on lane 41. Pretty good looking ball. 4-pin up.
Steve Jaros gets it in around the 22nd board, and the players told me prior to going on air that the left lane was a little bit drier, a little more friction on that lane. You see Steve Jaros goes a pinch high, Patrick Healey Jr. a pinch high on the same lane.
All right. We'll take the 4-pin. 88 events between victories for Steve Jaros.
Got that over with.
26th career television appearance today. And the first of this season for him. Same goes for Patrick Healey Jr. Could not defend his title in Kansas City a couple weeks ago on our tour. 19th career TV appearance for him. 10-pin for him. Patrick has had a great amateur career as well leading up to his pro status.
Well, he really has. He's bowled in 7 different countries. As we take a look, we've got boards that are numbered. And basically what that's going to do is that's going to give everybody at home a reference point so that we can show you when the players are making adjustments. Okay, it's not just the physical part of this game, but the mental part. Guys are going to make adjustments throughout the telecast, not only from game to game, but from lane to lane.
As we'll talk about, Randy, pattern C this week at times has been very frustrating for the bowlers. Why is Patrick Healey Jr. here? Well, he lost to Danny Wiseman in 7. Very exciting round of 8 match here last night in Toledo. But because he was the highest qualifier through the first 2 blocks of qualifying, that's why he, as a round of 8 loser, is our wild card this afternoon. There are the numbers ready. Lane level look at it. Another 10-pin.
Yeah, standing somewhere around the 37th board. Remember, there's 39 boards of lane, but the approach is pretty much unlimited. Unless you're on the right lane, you have to deal with the ball return. You can get up to around or stand near about the 40th board on the right lane. You've got about another 10 boards on the left. You can see Patrick Healey Jr. shooting the 10-pin. He's right on, looks like around the 43rd board. Here's a good tip. You want to make the 10-pin, stand as far left as you can, throw the straight ball.
You see him slip there at the end of that delivery. I was watching him in warm-ups today, Randy. He was very carefully monitoring the wood approaches here.
Well, sometimes towards the outside part of the lanes, they get a little slick, and obviously that's what practice is for the players to check the approaches, not only for their strike ball, but for their spare ball as well.
Jaros has cashed in 3 of his 6 events so far. Match play in 2 of the 6. There's a 2-pin for him. Still no strikes for Steve Jaros or Patrick Healey Jr.
Well, we saw a little bit of this in Grand Rapids last week. If the guys got it right of the spot, it didn't hit the head pin. This week, if you got it right of the spot, it would still come back and tickle that head pin. Steve, lucky he only leaves the 2-pin and not the 210. Last week, you got it outside the spot. Forget it.
Got a lot of open frames and single pin conversion failures this year, much to our surprise. But so far, not today. They've covered their frames well.
And I think a lot of that has to do with the pressure of trying to get in that elite field for next year. And talking with the guys, the last couple of weeks, sometimes they have a hard time crowbarring it out of their hand, because of the pressure, just trying to make the all-exempt field.
Steve did make 3 shows last year in Philadelphia. Pretty good memory for you. Your title last year. Latham, New York, and Burlington, North Carolina. Hoping the adjustment was right. Finally, we had our first strike of the day, and the crowd overflowing here in Toledo, appreciative.
Steve's got a little bit of that Mika Koivuniemi going as you see the ball get into the switch zone, that light hit. He's got a little bit of loft, but it looked to me on that shot right there, looked like he just firmed up and threw it a little bit faster, and when you do that, the ball holds its line better.
Back to Patrick Healey Jr. Gauges his adjustment properly. Into the pocket it goes, 10 down in the pit.
Patrick Healey, a master with a rotation. Look at that ball rotating. You can see that axis tilt going down the lane. That's what gets his ball to read the lane conditions properly. Patrick Healey Jr. signed with a new ball company a couple of weeks ago. He said it's been a learning curve for him the last couple, but this week was the first week. His ball reaction was beautiful from start to finish. That's why he led the qualifier.
And has been switching in the 15, 16-pound ball category as well. Feels comfortable. That ball was way off the mark on lane 41, coming in significantly light.
Yeah, and that's just a bad shot. I mean, this ball doesn't hit the building. Look how far right it goes. Last week, that would have been 0. But you're right, Dave Run. He said that he tried to go to 15 pounds at the start of the year and tried it for a week. He said, no way, I don't like it. Overthrew everything, went back to 16 pounds.
Knocked down 4 here, trying to increase that multi-pin conversion number. Covers well.
Perfect cover. He covered all 4 pins with a bowling ball.
Shot that spare in a long time.
He'd rather not face it, but great sportsmanship. You heard Steve Jaros say, good cover. These two exemplary in their sportsmanship, I'd say, on the PBA Tour. Strike here for a 10-pin lead, looking for a double in the 5th. Gets it. Big shot, Steve Jaros.
Yeah, and a big double, too. And if you notice, this ball looked like it was going to go high, and it just stood up right before it got to the 1-3. But look at this beautiful form, how solid he is at the line. And watch this ball. Looks like it's going to go high. It actually stops and flushes the 1-3.
Lots of adjustments for Steve Jaros. Once he came back from Japan, bowling there in the Invitationals, he told us, with the approach, with his arm swing, timing was thrown way off, and it's taken a while to get it back. Little high there. 4, 7, 10 remain for Steve Jaros.
Said he was battling with early timing, and I think he's still battling with it a little bit, but he had a better ball reaction this week, so it's much easier to get your swing loose. But this ball cuts right through the heart. And obviously not liking the fact that he left a split instead of tripping the 10 out. But you know what? We saw Steve Wilson make the same split last week.
Will have to kick it across the deck, 10-pin up, and an open frame for Steve Jaros. With his family watching closely, the wild card match continues. We'll break down the lane pattern as well. Pattern C for Patrick Healey Jr. and for Steve Jaros. An incredible challenge. Why? We'll find out when we return. Very impressive fans. I thought Halloween was long since over, but these guys are ready to go. The 120th PBA Tour stop in the great state of Ohio's history. Welcome back, Dave Ryan, Randy Peterson with our entire crew. No left-hander, Randy, this week in our final 5. Still very intriguing, maybe the most interesting field we've seen yet.
I agree. You know, we have Amleto Monacelli, who's a Hall of Famer. Danny Wiseman, who's sure to be a future Hall of Famer with 10 titles. Steve Jaros has bowled 300 on television. Patrick Healey Jr., he dominated the qualifying. He led the qualifier. And Chris Johnson, a rookie on the tour, making his first telecast.
And we can't wait to see him because he throws the ball so hard. Very impressive with a rev rate for Chris Johnson. Pattern C, speaking of C for Chris, has been challenging today and all week for the bowlers.
Confusing for me, but we're on wood surface, and when you bowl on a wood surface, you're going to have a worn area called the track. That's where the amateurs play. What happens is the players are going to try to be feeding it to that track area, but we already saw one guy get it right of there. If you get it right of there, it's going to hang. The players will migrate left. The guys with the bigger hook, they'll be further left, throwing it to the same spot.
149 events since we have not had consecutive tournaments without a 300 game. All the way back to 97 out west. We're certainly not going to get that here today. Jaros coming off the open frame. Time to think that over. And you see the numbers through 6. Back to Healey Jr. Found the pocket a little late, and the 10-pin stands for him.
Patrick Healey Jr. is crossing so many boards from right to left. With that soft ball speed, his ball's actually losing energy when it hits the pins, and that's what's causing him to leave a flat 10. And he's so good with his hand, Dave, he's got to try to find a way to make that ball skid flip a little bit more as it's going down the lane.
Pattern C, Randy's been all about adjustments for the bowlers this week. Look out. Missed it. Oh, my goodness. Earlier in a graphic we showed you about open frames and missed single pin conversions. Healey is bitten by the bug.
Patrick Healey Jr. does not like to throw a plastic ball for spares. He doesn't like going from one ball to another. He likes to throw a strike ball. A plastic ball wouldn't have hooked by that. The ball he's using is an aggressive ball. Didn't get it far enough to the right and hooked right by it.
Jaros had his open in the 6th frame. Now it's Healey Jr. trying to respond. That's the way to do it. Off the open. A strike in the 7th for Patrick Healey Jr.
You can see how much harder the change of direction is on this shot here because the ball didn't hook early. It still had energy when it got down to the back part of the lane and therefore got rid of the 10-pin.
Steve Jaros tells us, as with all the players, in his opinion, the all-exempt tour Next year on his mind. On his mind now is a nice strike on lane 42. He'll run the pro shop back home in Wheaton, Illinois, at the center where they've got the J&J bowling pro shop. Mom Helen runs the shop as well. All the books.
The guy running the shop while Steve's on tour is like, Steve, come on, you got to start bowling better, otherwise I'm going to be out of a job next year.
That's Jake Woltman, and I'm sure Jake is watching right now, Randy. On lane 41, here's Steve. He's rooting him on for sure. Big strike.
Yeah, he cured that one. A good time, too, taking advantage of the strike of the 7th. He doubles up. Real simple type of game here. Shoulder high backswing. Does most of his tricks with his hand at release. As bad as he was feeling a couple of weeks ago on tour physically, he's got to be feeling really good now, both physically and mentally.
Can he rebound? A little high with a nice strike on the last frame after his open. Lane 42 has been trouble.
And here's the dilemma that Patrick Healey has.
At the angle that I wanted.
He goes flat 10. He tries to get the ball to cut harder into the pocket, and it goes high. Needs to take a big move left with his feet on that lane, throw the same shot. I'd move about 3 or 4 boards with my feet and 2 boards with my target.
Covers well. Big spare Patrick Healey Jr. March to the PBA World Championship, which takes place not far from here, Ypsilanti, Michigan, the Eastern Michigan University campus, probably an hour 15 from where we are here in Toledo. The top 8 get seeded all the way through. We don't have to do any kind of qualifying. On the line, 25,000 points to the winner, $40,000. How many pesos would that be for Patrick Healey Jr. back home in Mexico City?
Like 5 million?
That's about that. Conversion rate.
There's a good one.
Cures that one on lane 41. 60 feet to success and a big ball for Healey Jr.
Patrick said that when he's back home in Mexico City, he pays about 20 pesos a game for practice. And I asked him, well, how much is that U.S.? He said about $1.50.
His wife Teresa, one of the top female bowlers in Mexico. She competes internationally. Just last week in Honduras, Patrick was there in Central America to watch her in person. He watches Jaros get a break and a trip 7 on lane 42.
This is every bowler's friend right here. Watch this. Tickles the head pin, gets the light swisher. Right now, the best Patrick Healey Jr. can do if he strikes out in the 10th is 206. Steve Jaros can shoot 233, and right now he's going at a 213 pace. All he has to do is mark in the 10th, and he'll shut out Patrick Healey Jr.
Open frame in the 6th. Really killing Patrick Healey Jr. However, this ball
Make it easy, do you?
gets down 6, and Steve realizes he's making things a little more difficult on himself.
Yeah, and if you ever want to, get a mark in the 10th frame to win, you don't want to leave the bucket. The 2-4-8-10. A couple schools of thought you can try hooking it into this spare or just throwing it straight and hard at the 2-5. Spare and 8 pins, he's a winner. But first things first, got to cover the bucket.
Perfect ball. With his spare conversion ball, Jaros takes care of it.
Made it look easy, but...
You can get 7 with every ball in your bag, too.
Yeah, but 7's no good, Steve. You need 8.
Yep.
Made it look easy, but, the pressure for next year's exempt field, trying to get into the Tournament of Champions, the top 8 for the March to the World Championships, trying to make the bucket, well, that's not a real easy thing to do.
He told us last night there'll be times when he steps in the approach on TV, maybe like this one. He knows it could be his last go-round on television, but not today because he's through to the semifinals. Perfect ball at the perfect time for Steve Jaros.
You're right, Dave. He just can't throw it any better than this. Watch the 6 go to the sidewall and just carve the 10 out.
First show of the year, first of many, hopefully, for Patrick Healey Jr., who, as he tells us, speaks almost perfect Spanish. Jaros is through.
Never easy.
Speaking of Spanish, Amleto Monacelli, one of 3 languages he speaks, along with Italian and English, from Venezuela. We'll hear from Amleto later today. Patrick says traffic is difficult to get used to down in Mexico City. 9-pin up there. However, the cultural enrichment he's experienced in his life, unforgettable. Chris Johnson, the rookie, first ever TV appearance, and obviously first appearance on TV against Danny Wiseman, who's won 10 titles. This should be a fiery match to watch, folks. Wiseman told us last night he better be ready because I'm going to bring my A game, and we'll find out what happens in that other exciting semifinal. Jaros is through already. He'll take on Amleto Monacelli, the only foreign-born PBA Hall of Famer. First we come back, the fireballer from the Lone Star State. Chris Johnson makes his TV debut head-to-head with a flamboyant Danny Wiseman. In 1987 at the PBA National Championship from Toledo, our very own Randy Peterson got into a great championship match with Amleto Monacelli. Each bowler rolling the ball so well. It came down to the 10th frame where Randy would leave a 10-pin. And in the process, leave the door open for Amleto, who then needed 2 strikes to win. It wasn't meant to be for Monacelli, but it was meant to be for Randy's second victory. His sole PBA major title. What a day in Toledo for our own Randy Peterson. Those are great memories for our own Randy Peterson in Toledo, and Danny Wiseman would like to create some good memories in Ohio today. In the offseason, you went through some toe injury issues that have been bothering you so long. You had the pin inserted in your toe and surgery in March. How long did it take you to recover, and are you feeling well now?
Well, I didn't bowl for about 4 months, and you know what? I didn't miss it, but it took me a little while to get back into it. My thumb was down, and it was a tedious situation because I wasn't sure what was going to happen. But now everything's good, no problems with the foot. So now the wrist bothers me a little bit. But
good luck, Danny. Thanks. Looking for his 11th career title this week, Randy.
Yeah, it's hell getting old. Danny, I feel your pain, buddy. But, you know, the first couple of weeks on tour really showed that Danny didn't get the bowling in, didn't get the amount of games in, and to his own admission, he struggled, or has been struggling the first couple of weeks. But one guy that hasn't been struggling is this young man right here. This guy, Chris Johnson, is one of the best young rookies I have seen in a long time come out on the PBA Tour.
All right, kept it on the lane. Good job. Come on.
Kept it on the lane and left himself a makeable spare.
First ball, TV in his career. Even though he's 26, he's been through a lot of pressure moments with some high-stakes bowling. Television is different, right?
It surely is. It's a completely different environment, and until you've been there, done that, you have absolutely no idea what to expect.
Come on, CJ roots himself on. Here is Danny Wiseman, who told us a moment ago he's had to endure a lot of pain with that toe injury, which dated back to high school, had been re-aggravated constantly. Last season, he played in a tremendous amount of pain. There he will feel better after he gets a nice help on the 10-pin. Number 10 goes down late. Baby Ruth, real deal matchup between these two.
Chris Johnson did have a lower strike percentage, but look at the spare conversion percentage. I mean, if you can't strike, you know, the only thing that's going to keep you in matches, keep that average up, and get you to make cuts is making spares.
14th year on tour for Danny Wiseman. PBA member since '87. His last title of the 10 that comes in high was November of last year in Chicagoland against Steve Hoskins in the final, 215-197. Made it barely to the World Championship 8 to qualify over Lonnie Walczyk on points. And this week, multi-pin pickups.
Danny Wiseman's had that same spare ball, I think, for the last 15 years. That bowling ball there is probably, gosh, I think they made that back 30 years ago.
However old it is, it's effective there as he takes care of the 3 remaining. There have been some doozies, Randy. Excuse me.
Mine being one of them. My first time ever, I was so nervous. I shoot 153. But you know what? There's a learning curve out here. Danny Wiseman, obviously, he's been here so many times. It's a learning curve. You've got to learn how to bowl under the lights and the pressure of television.
And speaking of our own Randy Peterson, who seems to be woven into our theme quite a bit, you saw the numbers with Wiseman and win percentage possibilities.
Well, he's laying this ball down on like the 38th board on the left side of the lane, crossing over about the 5th arrow on the left. And the problem is if that lane dries up and he advances, the only way he can play on that lane is by lofting it over the gutter.
Chris comes to us from Garland, Texas, near Dallas, 26 years old, as we mentioned. A lot of amateur and high-stakes experience, but was urged by bowlers like Del Ballard, who lives along with Paul Fleming in the Dallas area, to come on to the PBA Tour. His former girlfriend, also 5 years, challenged him basically. Time to see if you can handle the world's best.
Yeah, he's glad he did too. Obviously, gets the nice trip 4 there, nice break. That'll loosen you up.
As things stand, Chris is our leading candidate to succeed Brad Angelo as PBA Rookie of the Year. Wiseman, a touch high, but some help. All 10 down for him.
What's good for you is good for me. I can trip the 4 too. That's what Danny Wiseman's thinking.
An average of 223.63 for Wiseman in those match wins. That includes the 7-game thriller last night over Patrick Healey Jr., just eliminated by Steve Jaros in the wild card here today. Strike here to even things up for Wiseman. 4th frame. Whoa. Way off.
Wow. How's that deal?
Talk about light, Randy.
Well, it looked like he had a little footing issue there. That same spot that Patrick Healey Jr. slipped when he was shooting a 10
ice
pin.
skating today.
Yeah, you just heard him ice skating. That means the approaches are slick. He's got to get the ball over here, left side of the head pin, drive the head pin into the 10. The ball goes over here and takes care of the 2.
Can he respond from the washout with his first ball? No. 10-pin stands, open frame for Wiseman. And we're coming to you from Southwick Lanes, Toledo, Ohio. Live coverage here on ESPN of the PBA Tour. Dave Ryan, Randy Peterson, our entire crew. Once again, glad to present thrilling PBA action as all bowlers battle for the all-exempt field. Bowlers like Chris Johnson, the rookie from Texas, also trying to get himself into the Dexter Tournament of Champions. He could do that by winning here. And all the bowlers, once again, will be bidding for a title, valuable tour points, all exempt status for next season. Greater Philadelphia Open, Sproul Lane, Springfield, Pennsylvania. Some guy named Peterson won last year, I think.
Yeah, too bad I couldn't have done it this year, you know. Guaranteed a job for next year.
Notice, folks, we're back to a 1 o'clock traditional start time next week. We're 2 this week Eastern and 1 next week. We switch back. Looked like he really slipped there, too, on the approach, especially in the left of our TV pair, as he just boards and his release point.
He is so far left. Watch his slide foot. Watch what it does. Continues to move. Now, that's his style. Looked like maybe just a little bit of a slip, but his style is his foot kind of comes to a stop, the ball gets to the bottom of the swing, and then his foot slides forward just a little bit more. Oh,
Chopped it. Oh, my.
What are the odds of that?
Not so good, Chris. We don't see it very often. However, this year on tour, it's been frequent.
It's been a real freak show with spare shooting the first 5 weeks of this season. Let Danny Wiseman right back in with an open frame.
Open frames have just been a huge theme of the PBA Tour this year, unlike last season. Without question. A market difference. Wiseman trying to make his adjustments, hoping for a messenger to get that 10 down. He won't get it. 36 TV appearances. A guy they call CJ, a red-hot rookie on the PBA Tour, making his first Danny Hall of Fame status, eligible as he has that 10th win. Chicago that last year against Steve Hoskins it came. 10 pin down for Wiseman.
Dave, look, a spare.
With a 10 pin. Wins for Wiseman this week. Pretty emotional in the Patrick Healey round of 8 7-gamer here last night. As was Chris Johnson's match.
Yeah, you know, even though Patrick Healey Jr. was in, he still took Danny to 7 games. You know, you don't want to have to bowl 3 games if you don't have to. Patrick Healey Jr. was guaranteed the show. Danny took him at 7.
Really?
Didn't like that one bit.
That's a look of confusion. You know, when
Wow.
a player stares at the arrows after he lets go of it, when his ball does this,
I need some help.
shouldn't have done this. Ball comes in light,
Jeez.
2-8-10.
So another split. Average under 15% this week. A quarter of them have been converted. The number will sink again. Another open frame. Second of the match in the 4th and the 6th for Wiseman. Chris Johnson, the rookie, has one already in the 5th frame. When we return, we'll tell you about PBA events to come. Days in on the road and bring you the exciting conclusion of this semifinal match from Toledo.
I would have to say probably when Earl went over the $1 million mark in '82 in Toledo. You know, that was a big deal. You know, he was just absolutely incredible. I mean, he did things that just, you know, just incredible.
Pretty incredible career for Danny Wiseman as well back here at Southwick Lanes. $16,000+ this year. He's over $1 million himself, speaking of the $1 million mark. $1.036 million to be exact, coming into today's TV show. Checking in with the Days In on the road. Can Randy defend in Philadelphia next week? 1 o'clock Eastern time start. Don't forget, Doug Kent was the champion of the Empire State Open in Latham, New York, near Albany. All leading to the PBA Dexter Tournament of Champions at the Mohegan Sun Casino and Resort in Uncasville, Connecticut. Some regional events as well in Oregon, Newport News, and Gastonia, North Carolina. Senior event, all coming up. Days In on the road.
Watch how far left Chris Johnson is standing. He almost has no room left. He's against the bar. He turns to about the 45th board, drifting left.
Amazing. Great lane level look at it. Hustles to the pocket. And it works well for Chris Johnson. Amazing story with Chris in the greater Omaha area to begin our PBA season, the Banquet Open. Had some tooth problems, and in fact had to go see a dentist the morning that Robert Smith was about to win the first tour stop of the year. Had a double emergency root canal done.
Yeah. Oh, God.
He said, I would not wish the pain I had on anyone in the world.
Well, my wife has had a couple root canals in her days. And let me tell you something, those are no fun.
Wow! Gets a break.
That's huge, tripping out the big 4 for a big double. And a 42-pin lead over Danny Wiseman. Watch this. There's the loft now. But not only does he have to loft it, he's got to feed it to the right. You know, just because these guys are moving into the center part of the lane doesn't mean that there's automatic hold that's going to push that ball to the right when they let go of it. They've got to feed that thing to the right with their swing direction and with their rotation on the bowling ball.
After the Open in the 6th, Danny Wiseman ran in a big hole. That's the way to close the gap a bit. It's the first time all year that Wiseman has made match play. He has not won a title in 20 events, as we mentioned, going back to the Miller High Life last year. Other finishers in the round of 32 on, including soon-to-be retiring Mike Albee. Played well last night.
The great Mike Albee, he's done just about everything you can do in our sport. We're going to miss him. He's truly an ambassador and just one of the best guys you'll ever meet in your life. He's just a great guy. We're going to miss him. Mike, we'll miss you. Jeff Lizzie from Sandusky, not too far down the road.
That ball was light for Wiseman. Albee went down to Amleto Monacelli in 5 games last night in the round of 8.
Peter Hernandez actually winning a roll-off After the first 9 games of qualifying, he snuck in and then made the round of 32.
3 shows a year ago for Wiseman, making shots like that, converting the 10-pin. He stares it down a bit. Memphis, Vernon Hills, where he won, and Medford, Oregon, were his 3 TV appearances.
Just going to catch the corner.
Wiseman overcoming the toe pain. Johnson, the tooth pain. He said to us the dentist couldn't inject the Novocaine properly to numb the pain. So essentially, he was going in there to take care of business on the root canal without any Novocaine. He said it was just unbelievable how painful it was. The dentist would stop. Are you sure you're okay? Chris said, I'm okay. Just finish the job. Mercy. That's toughness right there.
Yeah, either that or he's into torture. I'm not sure which. But right there in the 8th frame, he just made a great shot on a double, leaving the ring in 10. Just cover the spare. He's in command right now.
8th frame, CJ, as they call him, is in fact in control. Looking so good on the lane. He is fun to watch.
Wow, look at the loft there.
Way down the lane, a la Mika Koivunemi with the lumps.
Check this out. You know, being a star out here, this guy, I told you he was good, but the reason why he's good is because he can do it all. Look at the loft. That gets the ball not to hook. If it's in the air, can't create friction, pushes further down the lane. He knows it's good. The 6 goes to the wall, takes care of the 10.
Chris knows, big foundation frame strike for him. Back to Wiseman. Through the nose, and the 3-pin up for him.
Danny having issues with ball reaction, having issues with the approach, and he is not going to advance. Chris Johnson is going to be your winner.
It is official. First ever TV show for Johnson and his first career victory. He'll advance past Wiseman in this semifinal. Steve Jaros, Amleto, Monacelli are next up. What should be a very exciting match. Jaros and Amleto have never met on TV. Until today, that will change in the other semi. And Chris Johnson, who told us the experience has been great so far on the PBA Tour. This is his first run at it. Interestingly enough, a lot of the bowlers were very friendly at the beginning when he first came on tour, and then sort of cooled down on that a bit once they realized, first, this kid might take my spot perhaps. Maybe it won't be as helpful with instruction and help.
Yeah, maybe, and also maybe a bit envious the fact that he's bowling so well. I mean, you know, you're not supposed to come out on tour, be a rookie, and do as well as Chris Johnson's been doing.
There twice myself.
We're talking about the slickness of the approach. Is obviously an issue with Danny Wiseman, but Chris Johnson,
Shot when you can't stand up.
Chris Johnson has worked his way through that. Wow.
And worked his way through quite well, we'd say. Notice the graphic on some of the horrendous first TV games, including yours in the 150s way back when. Not the case with Johnson today.
Yeah, did you kind of get a feeling for that last night when we talked with him? I mean, he's not a cocky kid. He's a nice kid.
Confident, though.
He's very confident. You know what? He should be, because he throws it great.
See from behind in the approach how far to the left he is. Right against the ball return, and we'll closely monitor that coming up in the final.
When he gets in the finals, I mean, he's out of lane already.
Yeah.
If that ball doesn't push down the lane, he's got to make a change. And I think the change he's going to have to make is to a weaker or a less aggressive bowling ball.
Fast tracking to the end since Chris Johnson has wrapped it up. From Garland, Texas to Toledo, Ohio, and now one step further into the championship match. Who will he take on? That's the question. It'll either be Jaros or Amleto Monacelli who compete in the next semifinal when we come back to Toledo. Great moment for CJ in Ohio. And we welcome you back to the PBA Toledo Open. Chris Johnson through the final against either Amleto Monacelli or Steve Jaros. There's 94 in Toledo that Johnny Petraglia bowled, one of the most memorable games. Here's the Miller milestone this week.
300 game in Toledo was really special. Oh, it was special because of where it happened in my career. I was 47 years old. You really don't expect to get a shot at it again. And I had a shot in 1978 and choked on the last shot. I had the first 11 and bowled 298. I was bowling Mark Roth then. And if you ever get a second chance, at least you know what the pressure is going to be like. So one of the great things that happened after the 300 game, I came off the lanes and I'm walking by the desk. There's 4 phone lines in Imperial Lanes, and all phone lines were ringing. And the woman behind the desk said, all of these lines are for you, and number 4 is the White House. And I said, no, it isn't. I said, just it's a crank call, hang up. And she said, no, they're very insistent that it's the White House. And I said, look, Bill Clinton isn't sitting there in the White House watching the bowling show and calling up before we even go off the air. And she said, can you try and get them off? And I said, okay. So I grabbed the phone and I said, hi, this is John. And on the other end of the phone, the guy says, hi, my name is Joe Cirillo, John, and I own the White House Tavern in Chicago. And he says, and you don't know me from Adam, but the whole bar is going nuts. And to me, that was just the greatest. I mean, to know that there's a bunch of people that I have no idea who they are that are cheering at some bar while you're throwing the last shot, that was better than the White House.
What a great story, this week's Miller Milestone, involving the great Johnny Petraglia. Steve Jaros, the 13th player in PBA history to roll a televised 300 game, and came back in Chattanooga, Tennessee 4 years ago. Steve is going to take on Amleto Monacelli in the other semifinal. Who will take on the young upstart rookie Chris Johnson in the championship round? That's the question. The Venezuelan star Amleto Monacelli trying to break a long winless streak. Head-to-head with Jaros when we return. In 2002 in Toledo, with Lonnie Walchek facing off against Doug Kent at the inaugural PBA World Championship. After taking care of Rick Steele-Smith in semifinal round action, Doug Kent would need a final score of only 210 to beat the struggling Walchek's 160. In the process, Doug Kent would take home a PBA record first place check of $120,000. Great memories there for Doug Kent. Perhaps Amleto Monacelli can create some more fantastic memories of his own. He's joined now by our Randy Peterson.
Dave, Amleto hasn't won on tour in 6 years, but Amleto, last night you told Dave and I that you feel like you felt back in the 80s and 90s when you dominated this tour. What's been the difference?
Well, I changed my personal trainer, did a different program for these 9 weeks. And so I think with that and the meditation, because this is a mental game, obviously, at this level, I think that's been helping me a lot, and that's what I feel.
Amleto speaks 3 languages now. Amleto, in Italian, tell the folks at home what you're going to do to Steve Jaros today.
Oggi è il mio giorno e gli distruggerò.
I'm not really sure what that means, Dave Ryan, but I think that means he's going to destroy him. Back to you.
I'm pretty sure destruction was included there, and you saw Steve Jaros shaking his head. Gamesmanship in any language, and Amleto speaks English, Spanish, and Italian. His family of Italian descent, but they moved before he was born from Italy to Venezuela, where he lives now. His wife Teresa and son Amleto Emmanuel hopefully are watching our live telecast. They're trying to get it on the satellite, he told us, back home, not see it on delay broadcast.
Dave, did you understand any of that?
Destruction.
Okay. Okay.
Pretty sure. Barquisimeto, Venezuela's hometown of over 1.6 million residents. All he's thinking about now is the number 10. 10 down in the pit for Amleto. To read about him and all the other great PBA stars. The latest information, including updated stats, stories, player bios, regional events, and even archive replays of our ESPN telecast. It can all be found on the tour's official website, www.pba.com. Steve Jaros has his family back in the arena to watch. His wife June, the twins, Evan and Hannah, are here. They had to take off for a while, Randy, and go to the back of the building because the kids are, well, they're young. We're behaving perfectly. So the family had to go take a breather, but they're back for the second match.
4.5-year-old twins.
Talk about hands full.
Yeah.
There's Steve and June. The family watching the Baby Ruth Real Deal matchup, Randy.
Well, the thing that really stands out here is the spare conversion percentage. Although Steve's been perfect today, he did outstrike Amleto Monacelli and had a higher average.
7-match losing streak on television for the great Amleto Monacelli. And nice trip 4. It goes down late on that ball from Jaros.
Every bowler's best friend, when you're right-handed, the trip 4.
Amleto spoke to you about meditation. He's big into the mental focus aspect of his bowling. And also into stretching. He stretches before and after as that gets Brooklyn crossing over the head pin. The late break. He'll take it. Oh, he's not sure where the ball should have been on the release.
Amleto way in. Looks like he thumbed this one down. And when you turn your hand early, it's going to hook early. And he's like, whoa, what happened? Wait a minute. Trip 6? I like it. Or, in Spanish, me gusta.
How about your Italian? Do you have that translation for us?
Don't know how to say it in
We're going to
Italian.
have Mika Koivunemi on the show for our finish.
You can say it in
Dose.
German.
On lane 41.
Wow. Wow.
Ausgezeichnet in German, which is perfect, excellent.
Beautiful.
Match wins for Amleto this week. 12-4 match play record, including those numbers at 221.4 average. And as we told you, retiring Hall of Famer Mike Albee went down in the round of 8 last night. Mike is building a hockey rink, ice rink, with some business partners. That's his main interest after his great career comes to a close. Great to see him in action. Pin action, perfect for Jaros. On that ball on ABC.
Lambo Field.
You gotta say, frozen tundra. Not sure it's frozen quite yet. Jaros stays red hot though. The turkey ball gives him 3 straight. That on the 4th frame.
Steve Jaros playing the lane straighter than everybody else on the telecast. He's got a nice line to the pocket, and this match is all even. Now, Brooklyn, the last time on this right lane, let's see what kind of adjustment Amleto Monacelli makes.
Trying to get himself back to Player of the Year status. He had it already in his career. He came in light of the pocket, and the 2-pin still up. He was the 89 and 90 PBA Player of the Year. We talked about all the titles and Hall of Fame status.
When a player loses leverage at the bottom of the swing, they don't get the power at the point of release, and that's what happens when you slip. Power players have to have a firm, solid foundation to plant against so they can apply power to the bowling ball.
Takes care of his mark with the spare ball. 13 TV shows in a row now. He has not won a title. We showed you the 7-match TV losing streak dating back 4 years. His last TV win came in '99, the PBA Showboat Invitational. That was in Vegas. Amazing career he's compiled.
Well, the only foreign player to ever be inducted in the Hall of Fame, Amleto. I've known Amleto since he first came out on tour back in the early 80s. And
Light again.
struggling now.
Wash out.
But he's had a phenomenal career, almost $2 million in earnings. You see this ball doesn't whiff the head pin. Same kind of deal. You got to get the ball left of the 1 pin, the head pin. Slide it over into the 10. The ball will take care of the 2.
Trying to up the percentage. Multi-pin conversions. Desperately needs it with how hot Jaros has been. Kicks the 10 late. Big mark for Amleto Monacelli.
That's big. That's big. He avoids an open frame. Watch this. The head pin almost misses it, and the neck or the head of that head pin actually hits the 10 pin. Obviously, Amleto can't control anything that Steve Jaros is doing, and right now, Steve Jaros is looking real solid.
5th frame, looks for the 4-bagger. Gets it. 14-pin lead. Steve Jaros. With his family watching closely, we told you about. He got by Patrick Healey Jr. Decision made between June and Steve to get off the road full-time as they had been with the kids in the motorhome. They still have the motorhome, trying to sell it right now if anyone's interested. Chicagoland area. But they started preschool the twins did this fall. And Steve and June wanted to make sure that...
It's not a bucket.
they were home for all their activities. You see the youngster Evan there. He's into bowling and golf. Hannah loves ballet and gymnastics. Tough to do that when you're always on the road.
Yeah, you know, and it's nice when you can have the entire family out with you when you're traveling out here, and then they grow up and they go to school.
Other commitments. Picks up the mark in the second semifinal. Who will take on the young rookie star, Chris Johnson, the championship match? Either Jaros or Amleto Monacelli. Steve bidding for his 4th career title. Amleto, number 19. Any language, he wants to get it today. Welcome back, everyone, at Southwick Lanes for the PBA Toledo Open. Amleto Monacelli, probably the most well-conditioned bowler on tour. His daily regimen includes sit-ups, jumping rope, and running. Ren explains how Amleto's fitness helps his game in this week's Dexter approach.
Dave Ryan, he's really gotten into stretching, too, and when you watch this, you can see why. Beautiful footwork to the approach. Watch this. Look at the stretch here in that right shoulder. Left arm straight out in front of him. Look at the hand, the backswing. Shoulders are wide open. Watch the cupped elbow at the bottom. That creates revolutions. Now watch this. This is going to drop straight down underneath his shoulder, and this release looks like he's starting a lawnmower. Watch him crank on that ball. And that's your Dexter approach.
As he mentioned to you, changing personal trainers. And what he has now, as we see the match through 6, this semifinal number 2 between Amleto and Steve Jaros, a tennis player fitness regimen that tennis players from Venezuela use on the ATP and Women's Professional Tour. When you're away from home, sometimes that can be difficult. Hotel fitness centers didn't like it.
Ball never bit down the lane, threw it a pinch hard, looks like just trying to get it right at the head pin, and leaves the bucket. We've seen this before. Steve Jaros left it in his first match. Right now, Amleto Monacelli struggling with ball reaction.
That's the ball reaction you want. It gets 4 down. His fitness instructor changing how many days a week he can lift weights, where before it was pretty much a free-for-all all week. Now it's limited when he's competing. Just the cardio fitness every day.
Right, he won't lift while he's bowling. If he bowls well throughout the week, he doesn't lift. If he bowls 9 games and doesn't make it through the qualifying round, he's back to lifting. He's back to the gym right after he's done bowling.
This guy's in great shape, folks, for 42 years old. Looks fantastic. On lane 41, lane level, look at it. High. 3-pin.
Struggling with ball reaction. Gets a little wide on the right lane, tries to square it up a pitch, goes right through the nose.
Kansas City and Las Vegas last year, 2 TV appearances for Amleto Monacelli. He lost to Patrick Healey Jr., the eventual champion in the wild card match in KC last year. Lost to Patrick Allen in the semis in Vegas. Arnie Walchuk won his first career title in Nevada that day. That's Steve Jaros. Looking for another strike. And getting it. Shreds the rack on that ball.
Steve Jaros has the inside track to success on this lane condition right now. He's not as far left as everybody else. He's getting his ball to read the middle part of the lane where it starts to change direction. And then his back end reaction is just subtle enough to not overhook, and it flushes the pocket every time.
Randy looks for a double here, 8th frame. With a strike, he's up 28 pins. And it'll be in firm command in the semifinal match.
Oh.
Help on the 7? No.
That's pretty close.
Yeah, it was, Steve, and it was a real good shot and not a very good break. But he's doing the right things. He's keeping the ball in play and staying out of trouble. And when he doesn't strike, he leaves himself 9.
That's the 7th pin for Steve Jaros. We're coming to you from the PBA Toledo Open, Southwick Lanes, Toledo, Ohio, very close to the Michigan border, about an hour and a half south of Detroit, Michigan. Dave Bland, Randy Peterson, our entire crew, glad to bring you live coverage again of the PBA Tour. Sherry and Daryl, the proprietors, have been fantastic with our crew and all the bowlers all week. We thank them and their staff. For their efforts again, as the PBA returns to Toledo. Light of the pocket there.
If you can stop at the approach, you can throw the ball. No leverage. Jeez. Nice.
I don't need to translate that for you. I mean, he has no footing, he has no leverage, and therefore he can't make shots. It's that simple. Obviously, this wasn't a problem when we started. I don't know why the approaches are getting slicker as the matches progress. Hey!
Beautifully done on the late hit of the 10-pin across the deck. A 2-4-10, beautifully covered by Amleto.
Executed perfectly. We can't stand up on a strike ball, but he's like, yeah, I can make the 2-4-10, but I can't plant and wheel on one to get it to hit the pocket. Amleto down by 21. He can strike out and shoot 228. Steve Jaros going at a 229 pace.
That's the way to do it. Huge ball for Amleto Monacelli.
Well, since he can't stop, he's just going to stand up on this one. Doesn't use as much knee bend. Look at him stand right up on it. Amleto being in the condition that he is at age 41, he can get on his left knee as strong as anyone. That time he just stood straight up on the shot.
Back to Steve Jaros. Oh, he's got the help he wanted on lane 42. 10-pin stands for him.
Dave Ryan, we have a possibility of a tie. If Steve Jaros spares here and goes strike spare in the 10th frame, Amleto can strike out and they'll both shoot 228.
That would mean the sudden death roll-off. Had it once on tour last year in the title match. Long Island, Norm Duke, your roommate Dave Traber. That was thrilling to watch.
Yes, it was. Steve Jaros with 2 strikes in the 10th frame. He's going to go to the title match. Anything less, we can either have a tie or Amleto can step up in the 10th frame and win. Although I don't know how he's going to do that on the right lane, because all he's done on the right lane is struggle. Right now, he's trying to figure out what he has to do to get his ball to the pocket if Steve Jaros gives him a shot.
Remember, he meditates, such mental focus. Jaros trying to find it, doesn't get it. 4-7 up for Steve Jaros.
Well, Amleto's got the shot. Steve Jaros with a spare here and a strike will shoot 226. Amleto can go double 9. Watch this ball go right through the nose. Or not through the nose, but it was a pinch high, leads to 4-7. Spare strike 226. Amleto Monacelli double 9, 227.
This is 26th career television appearance. Does cover nicely on the 4-7. Really needed that. As he reacts to what he thought was a good read on the lane.
Right now, Amleto Monacelli going through the checklist mentally to try to figure out some way, no matter what Steve Jaros does on this shot, Amleto needs at least a double. Amleto's trying to figure out, Dave, how do I possibly get the ball to the 1-3 pocket? Number 1, my ball reaction's not very good. Number 2, I can't stand up.
That's a challenge. 60 feet to success there for Jaros. .226 game for him, so 2 strikes and 9 can win it for Amleto and send him to the championship match against the rookie Chris Johnson. The lane has
looking to
given
make the
him
move on the
fits.
approach. Excuse me, looking to make the move on the approach. He's digging deep right now. He's just going to try to just gut it out and make something happen.
Desperately needs it. Oh! 10-pin.
Oh!
Doesn't get the strike he needed.
One more.
And Steve Jaros has won it.
You know, and this is like one of the worst feelings in our sport ever. You struggle to try to get it there. You make the right adjustment. You execute the shot, and then you get that. A big, ugly ring in 10.
It's a quick high five there from Evan and Hannah, the twins with wife June watching closely. Steve Jaros is going to advance beyond the Venezuelan star, Amleto Monacelli, who is listed in the 20th century as the 4th all-time most famous athlete in that country. But his day comes to an end here in Toledo thanks to Steve Jaros. That means Jaros needs one more against Chris Johnson. So, Randy Peterson, you remember about your first career title. We talked about some of your championships and last year's title in Philadelphia. Now you're Chris Johnson, who has won his first ever TV match. He's suddenly in the finals. What kind of things are going through his mind today?
Well, hopefully not a lot, because if there's a lot of things going through his mind, it's gonna cloud everything up. He wants to stay focused on the job at hand, and that's just making shots.
Geico Direct Championship recap. We'll see how everything worked out to get here, including a great day for Johnson.
In our wild card match, it was Steve Jaros defeating Patrick Healey Jr. by the score of 209 to 195. Steve Jaros with the turkey late put him in control. And in semifinal number 1, it was the rookie Chris Johnson defeating Danny Wiseman by the score of 224 to 172. Danny Wiseman never got lined up, and Chris Johnson took advantage of that. And as you just saw in semi number 2, it was Steve Jaros defeating Amleto Monacelli by the score of 226 to 206. Amleto with the big ring in 10 late cost him the match.
This week's Geico Direct Championship recap. There have been 74 bowlers to win the PBA title in their first career TV show. Richie Allen did it last, 2002 in Dallas. Can CJ do it? We'll find out. Jason Couch spared and struck in the final frame of the championship match of the PBA Pepsi Open last week near Grand Rapids to defeat Steve Wilson by only 10 pins. Wilson did convert 2 difficult splits in his first match against Lonnie Walchek. But when he left the 4-9 in the first frame of the championship match, he missed both pins. That was all the room Jason Couch needed. He struck 5 times en route to his 11th career PBA Tour title and exempt status for next season. So we've had 4 tour stops, 4 different winners. We'll have a 5th different winner on the PBA Tour. Maybe it's Jaros, maybe it's Johnson. We'll find out. Steve, it's been since 1999 since he won on the PBA Tours back in Chattanooga, Tennessee. What kind of things do you have to do here on the lanes today? The adjustments have been difficult.
Absolutely. You know what? I've been able to keep up on it most of the day. Obviously, striking is of the essence right now. And, you know, somebody's life's going to change here in about 20 minutes. I think I'm ready for a change.
All right, best of luck to you. Chris Johnson, somehow you remain so confident. How is that? It's your first ever TV show. You said a second ago, I'm more than ready to go.
I've been preparing my whole life for this, and I just want to do everybody in Dallas, let them know I'm going to do this for them.
The rookie CJ's ready to go. Randy, we'll find out. Finals here in Toledo.
Wow. Chris Johnson looks understandably a bit nervous. Steve Jaros sounded as loose as you could possibly sound, but he's the guy with all the experience when you look at this matchup. He's got to gather himself and just focus on the job at hand. Don't think about the folks at home in Dallas. Don't think about the money. Don't think about the tour exemption. Just throw it. Not the start you're looking for, but you know what? At least he left himself with a spare.
On the line here, Randy, $40,000. Points also vital. Maybe even more so now. Obviously, the tour title gives you exemption for next year and a spot in the Dexter Tournament of Champions as well. Equally important, but points are so critical trying to make that all-exempt field. We have a total of 64 bowlers next year. Top 50 spots, that's winners, all the winners, and point leaders as well, if they haven't won that title. As we told you a moment ago before the interview, 4 different winners so far this season. Robert Smith got us going on the American side in Greater Omaha.
Seven pins more a game in average, and there's that strike percentage that he's maintaining. 2/3 of the time that Steve Jaros lets it go, he strikes, and that's telling me that he's reading the lanes properly and making the right adjustments.
Just 3 wins in his title matches so far, but as he said in the interview a moment ago, he's confident his 4th title will come today. It's a good start, certainly, for him, as he's got a double and a 10-pin lead.
And as good as this young man is, Chris Johnson, and he's, in my opinion, he's going to have a stellar career as we watch him moving in front of the ball return, which means he has to alter his approach. Steve Jaros couldn't be in a better spot right now.
Wheel! Yeah!
Urging the ball, the wheel into the pocket, it did so, and down goes the 10-pin for the confident Chris Johnson.
Yeah, big left turn here, Clyde. Watch this. What a beautiful game. Look how steady his head stays at release. 6 goes to the wall and saws a 10 out. But if you're Steve Jaros, you're liking the situation, and you're going up against a guy, number 1, who's never been on television before, and number 2, who's never bowled for a title. Steve Jaros is a PBA champion.
Chris telling us experience on the tour has been fantastic, but he didn't know it was going to be such a grind with practice to qualifying. Had to hurry. Light ball, 10-pin stands, and then going from hotel to hotel, not on a social time. Maybe he thought it'd be a little bit easier in terms of the fatigue.
Yeah, it's a huge adjustment going from living at home to living out of a suitcase. As you see this tremendous break that Chris Johnson gets right here and tripping out this ugly split, only leaving the 10-pin.
Trying to stay perfect is Chris Johnson. Up that tournament average. He'll do so. Takes care of the 10. Good that from Chris Johnson. A lot of work, dedication, all the practice. Urged by family and friends to get onto the PBA Tour. Now he's got to take on Jaros for a title. There's a 10-pin for Steve.
Doing what he's done the entire day, keeping the ball in play. I can't remember the last time I've seen Steve Jaros this sharp on television, making the kind of shots he's making. He's just dialed in and looks as determined and focused as ever.
Win today, Dave Arnold will be out of the Dexter Tournament of Champions in Uncasville coming up December 14th. 32-player field. A couple of big names and stars on our PBA Tour, Randy. Patrick Allen, Tommy DeLuce Jr. right behind now.
Well, as good as those two guys are, they'll probably win before Uncasville. Wow.
Here is another ball. Steve Jaros. 3 shows last year for Jaros. First time it's been on TV this year against the upstart rookie, Chris Johnson. Jaros has a 9-pin lead when we return the exciting conclusion of this final match. Who takes home the title? Who's exempt for next year? Jaros or Johnson? Who will be the king of the lanes in this match? Jaros or Johnson? The championship round from Toledo. And let's check in with the Universal Tire Rock and Roll having to do with Amleto Monacelli in the second semifinal today.
Amleto Monacelli is going to slide the head pin over into the 10. What a great shot. He also made the 2-4-10, but it wasn't enough. And Amleto looked like he was having some problems with the approaches. Some serious tread wear was the difference in that match.
This Universal Tire Rock and Roll. Chris Johnson, first ever appearance, folks, on TV. Think of it for a moment. Yes, he's been in the high rollers, been a lot of high-stakes bowling matches, no question, but never on the PBA Tour. He told us at 8 years old, he was watching the PBA on television, told his parents, someday I want to be doing that. Well, this is that someday, as his lineup so far left gets help late.
Wow. I mean, could this be Chris Johnson's day? Nice trip 4 on the right lane. But the all-important lane, I think, is the left lane. Watch this. Ball goes to the side, or the head pin goes to the sidewall, trips the 4 out. Chris Johnson making a ball change and going to a ball that's less aggressive because he's so far left on that lane. If he gets it left to pinch, it goes Brooklyn. If he gets it right with too much speed and loft, it doesn't hook back.
You saw the matchups, how he got this far. Now down to the final. Brooklyn crosses over the head pin. They all go down. He'll take it gladly.
Okay, what do I do now, Coach? 6th arrow on the left.
Need it.
It barely catches the head pin on the left side. All right, well, hey, you know what? He's fishing right now on the left lane. Steve Jaros, in my opinion, has got the best ball reaction. All Steve Jaros has to do is not even look at that Brooklyn shot. Just go up there and keep doing what he's been doing.
Strike here for a 9-pin lead, Randy. There he goes.
Stuff like that, Dave Ryan.
Semifinalists in the wild card, as Steve Jaros was against Patrick Healey Jr. to go all the way and win. Hasn't happened much. Speaking of that, Patrick Healey did it last year, his only title in Blue Springs outside Kansas City. And earlier this year, Randy, on the telecast, we talked about how difficult that road can be, the extra match.
I think the hardest part is the lanes changing so much.
Big strike for Jaros again. 19-pin lead.
Here's the difference in the match right now. Steve Jaros has complete command of the left lane.
Turkey ball here, 6th frame. Johnson bids for his 3rd in a row, puts him down 9. Jaros has caught fire. No opens in this championship match yet.
Wow.
Big ball. Chris Johnson.
Watch the height of this backswing, but more importantly, watch how steady his head stays. Look at that. Look how steep that is, a la Jason Couch. Look at that elbow cup at the bottom, but his head is just perfectly stable. And that ball just split the 8-9 in half.
32nd in Omaha. That just after the extraordinary root canal. 57 in Kansas City, 21st in Chicago, and last week in Michigan. 41st, and now he's on the verge of #1 with a big strike.
He went back to the same ball he was using and said, you know what, let's give it some more air time. Watch this. Yeehaw! That ball is almost to the arrows on the fly. And look at this. This ball is perfect in the pocket. 6 does its job. We have a real dogfight.
Is that potentially the furthest on the release you've seen? I mean, that is way down there. Mika Koivuniemen certainly does it. Late help. Well, just the 2 up for him. But that is loft from Johnson.
Well, Mika, we've seen Mika do it, and Robert Smith is no slouch when it comes to loft. I mean, Robert Smith, I've seen him lofted past the arrows.
Wow. Wants to stay perfect and needs to with how well Johnson is bowling. He'll do it. 2-pin down. And you're coming in from Southwick Lanes, Toledo, Ohio. Dave Ryan, Randy Peterson, our fantastic ESPN PBA crew. Glad to bring you live coverage. The 2003 Scrabble All-Star Championship from Rhode Island is coming up next. But first, important business to attend to. Thrilling finish between a longtime PBA veteran and Johnson, the rookie.
Oh.
Look out. Down goes the 10. Was that ever lucky? 4-7 still up.
Well, gets a good break here. Cuts right through the heart, right through the schnoz. Only leaves the 4-7. The 10 falls late. With a spare here, Steve Jaros is going at a 226 pace. Chris Johnson going at a 220 pace, but he hasn't bowled yet in the 8th frame. It's either going to be 230s or high 220s.
4-7 down for Steve Jaros. His wife and the twins, I guess they just can't bear to watch. They're taking off. The young twins, you never know how they're going to act. All parents know that. It's tough to get them to sit still for more than 10 minutes. My 4-year-old's like that. Forget about it. They're watching on TV, though, in the back of the center. No question about that. Back to Johnson.
Wow.
Blisters the rack with a great shot again.
Wow. All I could say is wow. CJ is just taking complete advantage of his breaks. He's putting it to Steve Jaros, and he's bowling big under big-time pressure in the biggest arena of his entire life.
Chris is half Navajo Indian on his mother's side. He's spent time on the reservation in Gallup, New Mexico. Large extended family there. Told us last night what an extraordinary cultural experience that was for him to learn so much about his family's background.
Biggest shot of his short professional career right here.
Look at how far he is left, and it comes in light.
Over pumped and just overthrew it and just absolutely whipped the head pin, almost threw it halfway down the lane. And that's one of the things that he'll learn as he continues to compete out here, but this one just gets away from me, just overthrew it. Now the main thing here is to make the spare. He has 246 possibility if he strikes out in the 10th. If Steve Jaros strikes out from the 9th and 10th, he shoots 246. Possibility of a tie.
We might have a sudden death roll-off in the championship. Nothing more exciting, folks, than that in bowling. Coming down to one shot each. Foundation frame mark for Johnson. Now it's Jaros. Works on the spare. Critical shot.
Down by 10.
He's had command all day. Does he have it here?
Oh.
Through the nose she goes.
You know, I was kind of waiting for something like this to happen. The last two shots that Steve Jaros threw, he thought he threw them good, and they both cut and went high. And you just had to watch this develop in front of you. Everybody was so far left of him that you were waiting for Steve's ball to start hooking too early. And that's what it's doing now. Finally, I think the condition has broken down so much that he's having trouble getting it right at the head pin.
3-6 go down for Jaros. Don't forget, from Rhode Island, the convention center there, the Scrabble All-Star Championship is coming up next on ESPN. First, we determine a champion today and change the Dexter Tournament of Champions field. Create an exemption for next year. So much is being established in the next few moments. Jaros needs it. Gets it.
What a shot. He wants to change his life. He needs two more just like that. And a little help from Chris Johnson. But watch this ball shred the rack. It looks like he's moved further left to get the ball to skid a little bit further right. Has the great hand, the great touch, and that's why those pins flew all over the pin deck.
'88 events since Steve Jaros has won on the PBA Tour. Back to Chattanooga, Tennessee, as he told us. Trying to get back to the winner's circle. Again, it's high, and only 7 down.
Oh, you just lost the heads.
So referring to the first 15 feet of the lane, the head area. That's where the most worn part of the lane is, because that's where the balls are first making contact with the lane. Chris Johnson needs a mark to win this, Dave.
Unbelievable moment potentially coming up here for CJ. Trying to become number 75 with just a mark to win in his first ever TV appearance.
And the last guy to do it, also, Richie Allen, also from Dallas. There's something about Dallas, Dave. 9 misses, a tie, a mark, any kind of mark. He's your champion.
A title on the line for Chris Johnson.
Unbelievable.
Look out. What a split he's got to face here.
He's got to make it. He's got to make it. A mark and 2 pins. Just overthrew it again. The ball doesn't bite down the lane. Leaves the 2-4-10.
Wow.
Got to get the ball over here. Slide the 2 into the 10 pin.
Folks, this is for a title. With this spare, he can win. Doesn't get it. 10 pins still up.
Steve Jaros wins sitting on the bench. Unbelievable.
Can you believe what we just saw here in Toledo? What a break for Steve Jaros, and just like that, he is a champion in Toledo. And the kids missed it. 4th career title. Congratulations to him. More to come. What a moment. June, Hannah, Evan, Steve Jaros. With Chris Johnson, a chance to wrap it up. Did you ever think you'd take a championship? What kind of things are going through your mind?
Oh, God, everything. You know, I didn't really make a lot of good shots toward the end. I started losing the lanes a little bit, and I thought if I struck out in the 10th, I might have a chance. I never really thought that it would end up the way it did. I mean, Chris bowled fantastic to get here. And, you know, I've been on both ends of it. I know how he feels, and he's going to be back. I mean, really congratulations to him for bowling so great on his first show. And, you know, I'm still a little numb.
Well, congratulations. Enjoy it with your family.
Thank you very
Fourth
much.
career title for Steve Jaros. What a moment for him and the family here in Toledo. Be sure to join us again next Sunday at 1 o'clock Eastern Time here on ESPN for the PBA Greater Philadelphia Open from Springfield, Pennsylvania. It's been a presentation of ESPN, the worldwide leader in sports. For more, log on to ESPN.com. For our entire crew here in Toledo, reminding you that the Convention Center from Rhode Island hosting Scrabble next. It's Dave Ryan for Randy Peterson. So long from Toledo. Congratulations to Steve Jaros.